Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti, today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show.
Hey, welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. We got a great show planned for you today. Let me give you some hints to see if you can guess who we'll be interviewing in about 25 minutes from right now. Today's featured guest is a guy who fought 16 years and 46 times as a pro. He won the WBC Junior Lightweight Championship. He fought Steve McCrory, Kostya Tszyu, Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Gabriel Ruelas, Arturo Gatti, Micky Ward, Francisco Panchito Bojado, Ivan Robinson, and here's the big hint, Azumah Nelson 4 times. What a wrecking crew that is.
Gosh.
And he fought every one of those guys in their heyday. Know who I'm talking about yet? He's got great stories to tell, and he's coming up shortly, so stay tuned for about 25 minutes for Jesse James Leija. You are going to enjoy this one, I promise you. Before that, we're also going to get our weekly update from our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin. And we'll lead off, as always, with a look at the week in boxing with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman is a professional boxer and a boxing trainer from Osborne, Missouri. He's now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwaan Zahid is a boxing journalist from Toronto. And John J. Raspanti is chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com. And he and I are co-authors of Intimate Warfare, The True Story of the Arturo Gatti and Micky Ward Boxing Trilogy, which has spent most of the last year on the Amazon bestseller list. So the biggest fight this weekend, guys, was Murat Gassiev's 12th round TKO of vs.Dorticos in the World Boxing Super Series cruiserweight semifinal in Russia. And that fight unified the IBF and WBA titles. It was a good close fight all the way, and then had a really dramatic finish. And we were hoping to have Riz here, but we're still waiting on him. Travis, right afterwards, Riz tweeted that what a great fight plan by Abel Sanchez, Gassiev's trainer. Abel's just an outstanding trainer. What did you think of Gassiev's fight plan and the way he fought that fight?
I mean, Abel Sanchez is definitely has a hell of a resume right now with guys that he trains, and not just the guys that he trains, but just how he trains them and the game plan that he has for his fighters. But for the most part, the fighters that Abel Sanchez is training now, like Gassiev, those guys just hit like I don't even know, a brick shit house. I mean, there's not much game planning you have to do when the guy can just hit that hard. I mean, well, let's be honest. I mean, the guy is just a phenomenal puncher. But the main thing is, though, his fighters are very well-rounded fighters. They're huge punchers, of course, but they also have a good boxing skill, good movement, and to go along with that power. And most of them have a great chin as well. And I'm talking about most of them. I'm talking about Triple G now and Gassiev as well. But, I mean, Abel Sanchez has a whole list of fighters that he's trained. But I think the game plan was awesome. Just so, I mean, you couldn't even have scripted it better. I mean, it was the 12th round of a really good fight, and Gassiev puts him away. I mean, the first knockdown, though, was the best one in the 12th round when I didn't even know the guy was going to get up.
Dorticos.
I forget how to Dorticos. That knockdown, I didn't know he was going to get up, and so much respect to that guy, too. He's just a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal fighter. Just showed so much heart. And honestly, when they called it off, Dorticos fell out of the ring, and it really wasn't from a punch. I mean, punch, it missed him when he fell out of the ring and the referee waved it off. I agreed with the stoppage, so don't even get me wrong. But I think Dorticos probably could have made it to the bell, to be 100% honest. But I thought it was a correct stoppage. He was getting battered around. He was tired, and he kind of slipped through the ropes when the referee finally did wave it off. But, I mean, I don't know how you really game plan for a guy like Gassiev that is such a big puncher. It's really tough. I mean, box, move, stay away. But Dorticos didn't. Dorticos threw a lot of punches, stayed in front of him almost, a little bit of movement. But it was just a great fight. I mean, it was a great fight for the fans. And I mean, it was a hell of a fight for the cruiserweight division. And the cruiserweight division, it really doesn't get enough attention because you have the light heavyweight division, then you have the heavyweight division, and nobody really talks about the cruiserweight division because it's kind of like right in between, sandwiched in between very well-known divisions like the light heavyweight and the heavyweight. But it's a freaking awesome division right now with this tournament. So I really hope more people get on board with this. But it's an awesome tournament already, and we're in the finals now, I believe. So
yeah.
I mean, these guys are phenomenal, and this Dorticos and Gassiev fight was an amazing fight, and I really hope people can see this. I mean, people need to be posting this on YouTube all over, everywhere, and getting the word out because it's a legit tournament, and it's legit high-class, elite-level cruiserweights in the world.
Let me shoot you one more quick one. How tough is it to knock out a guy in the 12th round? How come we don't see that very often?
You don't see that very often because this is one of these athletes are some of the most well-trained athletes in all sports. And when you're doing battle with those people, eventually you get to 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds, you get tired. And, I mean, it's just human to get tired. So the fact that somebody can – that's when they're special. And I'm telling you, that's when they're special is when you can knock out another – this guy was undefeated. Dorticos was undefeated. They both were undefeated. So to knock out not just a tomato can undefeated guy, this guy was a legit undefeated guy. And to knock him out in the 12th round, that is – I mean, that's beyond special. I mean, you have any knockouts past the, 9th and 10th rounds even. That's, in my opinion, that's pretty darn special, especially the way he did it. That's a special human to have that kind of stamina, that kind of power into the 12th round. So, yeah, you're right. It's 100% special to me. And that's the most phenomenal part is that it was the 12th round and the guy still had that power. And you seen after he hit him and went into finishing, he still looked fresh, which was crazy to me. He was still winging hard punches and still looked fresh. I'm talking about Gassiev. Looked fresh.
Yeah.
Just walking him down and finally finishing him off. So I'm telling you, that guy, I would never want to run into the streets with that guy because when a guy can go 12 rounds and have that kind of power and stamina in the 12th round, it's inhuman. It really is. It's inhuman to have that. And I can tell you that as a fighter, that you have that kind of stamina in the 12th round, you're just not human. I mean, you look at guys like Canelo, who's a very special fighter as well. You see him get tired in the 11th and 12th rounds. You see him gas over rounds. Oscar De La Hoya was notorious for gassing in the later rounds. That's just how special Gassiev was to be able to knock out another high-level guy in the 12th round because it takes a lot of stamina and a lot of power, obviously, to be able to do that. But to have it in the 12th round, man, that's special.
Hey, and maybe that has something to do with training at 7,000 feet or whatever it is up there at Big Bear Lake where Abel's training camp is. John, Abel's been on our show a couple of times, and he's spoken about Gassiev in the same glowing terms he uses for his other great fighter, Golovkin. You wrote about this fight for MaxBoxing.com and Doghouse. How special is Gassiev? How impressed are you with this guy?
Damn, I was really impressed, Dennis. I sent a text to our good friend Mike Goodpaster, The Grueling Truth, and I said, man, this Gassiev guy is a bad man. I mean, what I was really impressed with is what Travis touched on earlier was the sharpness of the guy's punches. I mean, he was winging these hooks, and they were so sharp. I mean, they were coming so fast and sharp that Dorticos wasn't really ready for him in a sense. He was faster, and there's just something about a fighter that has that rhythmic sharpness to him, and you catch it right away, the way he moves, the way he slides along the ropes, and then, bam, he throws this explosive hook, and those left hooks and those uppercuts that he was hitting. And the other thing is Dorticos has got a hell of a chin because he got hit with some wicked shots throughout that fight, and he stayed upright. And Abel kept telling Gassiev, don't let up. Keep pushing. I mean, they were only up by a few points on the scorecards. The fight was very close. I had him up by maybe a little more than that because I think I had him winning 10 and 11. And it gave him a little bit, but that was good on Abel. He wasn't taking any chances. Go out there and do your thing, and he did it. And that 12th round was incredibly dramatic. And Travis is right too. That the right hand that I thought hit Dorticos and knocked him through the ropes actually didn't. It was more of a, if anything, just barely touched or more of a glancing blow. But the guy was so exhausted, and he had taken so many shots throughout the fight that his body was just saying, "Oh no, I can't do this anymore with this guy throwing these winging shots at me." I've only seen him fight one other time before this, Dennis, so I can't put him up there too high. But from what I saw, the thing that impressed me the most is he, like I said, he's got real game. I mean, he can box a little bit. He's obviously a puncher. 19 knockouts now. That was his 19th knockout. He took some pretty good shots from Dorticos, who's really came in there with the reputation to being the big knockout man with 21 out of 22 and got a good shin. But he fought a very intelligent fight. And that was what I was impressed by. You know, he picked his spots early on, and it seemed to really know what his plan was, like you guys were saying. But he took his time in there. He was very calm. He's just another one of these guys that just seems like some people are just born to do this boxing thing, and he looked that way to me. You know, and what he flashed in there was just like I said, total game, combinations, uppercuts. His jab was good. This guy's just going to get better, Dennis, and he hasn't been working with Abel very long. And as you know, we're giving all the props to Abel, and we should, because the guy was listening. Gassiev was listening to Abel. He did what he said. He wore Dorticos down and then knocked him out in the 12th round. I mean, the big fight in May with Usyk, the finals.
Yeah,
man, it's going to be some kind of fight because you got two different kind of styles. Usyk is more of a boxer puncher. He's a big southpaw. And, you know, I got to say something else. Riz mentioned this, too. And what I was really impressed by was the sportsmanship that Gassiev showed. I mean, he went over and checked on Dorticos. He hugged him. He was just, I thought, man, I said it out loud. I was watching it, and I said, man, what a great guy, you know. I mean, it's nothing personal in there. I'm not, I'm trying to beat you, obviously. That's what I'm thinking he's thinking. But I don't hate you, and you know, Dorticos was talking about knocking him out in the 5th round and all this, and none of that bothered him. He just did his thing. He won, and he didn't run, act like, you know, wow, look at me. He won. He had the belt. He smiled, and then him and Usyk congratulated him, you know, when they were in the ring, and he said, great win. And I'm like, wow, what a concept, you know, what a couple of sportsmen. So I just was impressed completely. Go ahead,
yeah, even, I mean, one better, they were at the post-fight press conference, and Dorticos was just very distraught at the press conference, you know, answering questions, and he was almost like in tears over there and hanging his head. And Gassiev got up, walked all the way across there, literally came from behind, hugged him, kind of like kissed his head, and was just like, you know, hang in there. And I was just like, wow. It gave me chills, man. As a fighter, it really genuinely gave me chills. Like, he not only was like that in the ring, but like the post-fight press conference, he legit, you could see the guy was super compassionate. That's awesome respect to me out of all fighters. You know, being a fighter myself, like when I see guys go to battle against each other like that, and then have enough respect and just courage to let it all go and know that it's just a sport and that you actually do care about the other person. That's what makes me love boxing, and that's why I don't think people understand that it's a gentleman's sport. It truly is. I know that we're out there, we're boxing, we want to knock each other out essentially, but we don't want to kill each other. I don't want the other person to be physically deranged the rest of his life. It's just inside those 12 rounds, you know, we do what it is to win, and afterwards I think the classy and great ones can put the rest of that aside and know that that's a human being that's across the ring for them when it's all over. It was just a sport, and that's what I just loved it. And just to touch on Gassiev, how special he is too, real fast. You're going to notice some of the great fighters, they jab to the body. Gassiev was jabbing to the body all the way into the 12th round. You see a lot of these great fighters, they jab to the head. Of course, everybody has a great jab to the head, and you need to. But, like, he was still jabbing down to the body. And I just love to see that, and enough fighters don't do that, and they don't realize how that sets up so many other punches. You jab down to the body, you jab to the midsection, you bring up an angle, then you bring a hook over, then you bring a right. I mean, it opens up so many other different punches. And Gassiev jabs to the body so well, right to the midsection, straight down the pipe. And I'm telling you, he's going to be a good fighter. I want to see him more, obviously. And again, I've only seen him a couple of times, like John was saying as well. And I can't go out there on a limb enough and be like, oh my God, this guy's the next best thing. I can't say that, but I can just say that what I did see was very great, and it was very special, and it was how he did it and the things that he was doing to get to the point to knocking him out in the 12th round. And that's what's special about Gassiev.
Why don't more fighters jab to the body? Does it take guts to do that because you're kind of reaching low? Yeah, I mean, your jab, when you're jabbing, your face and everything is kind of the closest hand Yep.
You're kind of reaching over, bringing your head over your shoulders a little bit there. So yeah, when you jab down low, you're even sticking your head even closer into harm's way. So not everybody can get away with it. I mean, you have to be fast and athletic and agile to be able to jab down there and be able to move out of the way if you need to. Or it's just so many aspects of it. It's not an easy punch, but that's why when you do see a lot of it, Floyd Mayweather was notorious for that jab to the body. He still does it. He breaks people down by jabbing to the body, and it's just a great punch. I mean, I've even seen a Klitschko jab down to the body. Even if the guy never goes to the body, he will jab to the body every once in a while. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that jab to the body, and you'll see that there's a lot of great fighters that's part of their repertoire is that jab down to the body, and it's a great punch. It's a risky punch for sure. It's a punch that not everybody can pull off, but if you can pull it off, I mean, it sets up so many different things. It makes your game that much harder to defend against.
Andre Ward.
Ali never did that, John.
Not really. I was going to say Andre Ward did it quite a bit too. If you
sure.
Remember, he used to go to the body a lot. No, Muhammad Ali didn't believe in hitting anybody in the body. I don't know if he ever threw one body punch in his whole career, to be honest. I doubt
really,
it.
Yeah.
But that's very true because I've heard so many fighters saying against, Travis can speak on this better than me, but, you keep doing that. All you got to do is bring your opponent's arms down just a little to guard against that body shot. Then you go to the head. Canelo does that. He'll go, he'll look down low like he's going to go to your body and then come over. That's how he knocked out Kirkland. He had Kirkland thinking about the body shot so much. Boom, he went to the head, knocked him out. But yeah, I remember Andre Ward when I used to watch him spar, and he was constantly working on that jab to the body. So that's a very good point. That's really an effective punch.
Here's what people should know about this final. Gassiev is going to fight Alexander Usyk for the WB World Boxing Super Series Championship Cruiserweight division on May 11th. It's going to be in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, which is interesting all by itself. Both guys are undefeated. Both guys have high knockout percentages. Usyk holds the WBO and WBC belts, so all four major titles are going to be on the line because Gassiev has the other two.
Yeah.
This whole World Boxing Super Series has been kind of underhyped, if anything, and Riz was taunting all of us yesterday about, why isn't this being shown on U.S. television? What's wrong with you Americans? And it's a great question. This is a sensational title fight between two undefeated sluggers, and not many people in our country are paying a whole lot of attention to it, and probably because the best cruiserweights in the world are Eastern Europeans right now. So, guys, one of the big American boxing networks is likely to invest in this fight, don't you think? Don't you think, John?
You would think, but I think it's pretty late now. In 2 weeks, part of the same series fight that I'm looking forward to so much, George Groves against Chris Eubank Jr. is another can't miss fight that I'm all excited about. But yeah, I mean, every fight in this tournament, moving back to the cruiserweight, watching Brightus and Usyk last week fight, and then Gassiev and Dorticos. I mean, these are quality fights, and people that really are trying to improve the game, I think, should be watching this really closely because these kind of tournaments, if they're publicized correctly, I think bring the interest up in the game in boxing because people can discover fighters and go, wow, I didn't even know who this guy was. He's really good. And America, we dropped the ball on this one. We should have been showing these. ESPN, somebody, Showtime should have shown them these fights. They should have showed yesterday's fight. Somebody should pick up the Usyk fight and Gassiev because that is going to be a fight and a half because Usyk, as I said, he's a boxer puncher, but he'll get in there, he'll get in the pocket and rumble. And Gassiev is going to be right there with him. So this is going to be one hell of a fight, and they've had a number of them in this tournament. So I'm disappointed that the networks haven't. They don't even mention it, which is really, really troubling to me. And okay, the final fight's going to be in Saudi Arabia. So what? That who cares? Get over there and put that on Showtime, HBO. I mean, what's HBO got to lose? I mean, they haven't barely been doing anything for a while. So let them go watch this fight. I mean, it's going to be a hell of a fight, and it's been just an incredible, successful to me. I mean, I'm not even going to care that I care, but I'm not going to grade it because the tournament, the fights weren't broadcast on television.
Rizwaan just popped up to heckle us about us Americans.
He's going to heckle us more about that. Well, we got no excuses because he's right. It should have been broadcast all over. So,
Riz, weigh in, man. You think this final will be picked up by America TV?
It has to be. I think they realize now they dropped the ball, especially after the two semifinal fights. So, and because it's the finals, I think it's more likely to be. And I think you're right. HBO, like, what do you have to lose? So the funny thing is HBO has put some of these guys on. HBO has shown a couple of Usyk fights. So why wouldn't you show his more important fights? That doesn't really make a lot of sense why you wouldn't, especially when you're already trying to hype him up essentially and showing how great he is, which he is obviously. So why would you not show the fights that you want people to see how great he is? It doesn't really add up, and they've missed. They've really dropped the ball, and Showtime is they have a pretty busy schedule for the year, so I don't know if that's kind of where their budget lies, and they're trying to at least show more American talent. So I think that kind of makes sense. But HBO they don't really have much anymore. HBO doesn't have any of the top ranked fighters. HBO doesn't have any of the PBC fighters. So they have a lot of the occasional Golden Boy fighters that, let's face it, are mostly mismatches. Obviously they have the Golovkin Canelo fight, but besides that, I mean, if you guys remember, even 2-3 years ago, there was an HBO card almost every week, and now it seems like maybe once a month.
At the most,
and I just don't get it, and especially HBO has invested so much of their budget for Eastern European fighters. They've done that with Lomachenko. They did that with Golovkin. They did that with Kovalev. So why wouldn't you do that with the newest guy on the scene, who has the personality, who has the same background, and on top of that is probably in the biggest tournament and is facing the most crucial opposition that either of those guys did, right? It took a couple of years for Kovalev to get that big fight. It took many years for Golovkin to get that big fight. Lomachenko's arguably still probably looking for that huge marquee fight, where Usyk's already there. And I'm not even gonna say, I'm not even assuming that he's beating Gassiev, but those are big fights that they've messed out on, and they've all been entertaining fights. So it is rare to see this kind of fight not picked up by any American station. That it was picked up by a Canadian station, which is a little shocking actually. But and it shows that boxing is such a global sport, and it's not, this. I know it's kind of a bit of a reach, but this is why when people say, well, Josh has to come to the States, but boxing doesn't just exist in the States, and I think this tournament is really showing that the sport is well beyond what's going on in America. Neither of these fighters are hell bent on fighting in Vegas or anything like that, because they understand that this is a world sport. I mean, the main event and the final is in the Middle East. The fight last night was in Saudi Arabia, in Russia. The week before was in Latvia. So it's such a global sport. I think unless HBO is willing, or I'm singling out HBO, but unless one of the American stations are willing to put in the finances, I think they're going to really miss out on some of the bigger fights in the sport, because they don't rely on America as much as they used to get the televised coverage that they wanted.
And I mean, I don't know that Europe's been doing well for a long time, though. I mean, you can't necessarily say that. I mean, Kostya Tszyu and Ricky Hatton and even Klitschko's been selling 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 seat arenas, though, for the last 20 years. So Europe's been doing this. It's not a surprise. I mean, you don't have to come to America to make your name, that's for sure. But I think that just shows you how awesome boxing is right now, that it's in Europe and they're just killing it over there. And they have been for a while, and they're just sustaining that. And I love it. I wish American TV would pick it up, but I also don't know that. I mean, how do we know that somehow the promoters or somebody involved in this are maybe keeping it from American TV? I don't even know the details of the business part of it. I just know they raised a ton of money on their own, and they didn't necessarily need an HBO or somebody. Because if it's in Saudi Arabia, they probably got a crap load of money from somebody in Saudi Arabia to keep it there. So I don't know the details of the business of it, but I do know that Europe's been kicking ass in boxing for a long time. I think they've been killing American live attendance for a long time, so it's not that shocking to me. I mean, they look at Anthony Joshua. 90,000 people are coming to see him fight. I mean, that doesn't happen in America. So one could say that boxing's been huge over there for a while, even more huge than in America.
This is Richard Schaefer's tournament, you know, and he came out of
That's
Golden Boy and now is off on his own, and he tried hard to get American TV to bite into it, and they wouldn't do it. And now the other part of the World's Boxing Super Series is the super middleweight tournament, which is in the semifinals now. John just mentioned that Groves and Eubank are in one semifinal, and Callum Smith and Jürgen Bremer are in the other one, and Riz, this seems like another opportunity for HBO because that super middleweight division has both Durrell brothers and David Benavidez, who's a good fighter, and Tyrone Zugi from Germany, and maybe Jermell Charlo, who's a middleweight right now, and Jesse Hart, guy you commented on yesterday, who needed just 88 seconds to take out this guy Thomas Owimbono. That's kind of an underappreciated weight division, isn't it, Riz?
It's strange. That tournament is probably not as highly touted as the cruiserweight one because, I mean, look at the guys you just mentioned, and neither of them are in that tournament. So it's definitely not the Super Six that we had a few years ago that really took Andre Ward to stardom. The cruiserweight division, on the other hand, is the A-listers. But I think what we're getting with Groves and Eubank, we're getting a huge bout in England. I think American stations probably look at English, fights that happen in England as kind of a safer bet. I think they understand a lot of the England fighters are willing to come to the States and vice versa, at least more so than some of the Eastern European fighters. And I think that's kind of why they at least had Rob Brandt in there to try to have at least one token American fighter. And the cruiserweight division, to be honest, as far as I can't think of really any highly touted American cruiserweights, or at least for a really long time. It's been a very, very long time since we had a highly touted cruiserweight from America. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if HBO picks up. I think HBO is actually more likely to pick up the Groves and Eubank fight than they would than they would the cruiserweight final. And I don't know if part of it's. I think they assumed what could be a language barrier, but if you're watching yesterday, I mean, Gassiev speaks English, and he's done his part to do so. But I think Groves and Eubank, to be honest, I think it's something that American fans like more. I think there's going to be more trash talk. I think there's going to be more of a build-up. I think there'll be more hype. Where Usyk and Gassiev, I mean, if you saw them in the ring after the fight, they joked around, they high-fived, they're like, all right, see you in a few months where we're going to punch each other in the face. But there's just a mutual respect and sportsmanship, which even though we respect it, let's face it, most fans are probably not looking for that. Most fans like the hype. Most fans like the press conferences that go wild. Unfortunately, that is what sells, and that's what people want to see. And I think you're more likely to see that with Groves and Eubank, and that's why I think you're more likely to see an American station probably pick that one up, especially now. But you mentioned a lot of the guys like Jesse Hart and Gilberto Ramirez and all these guys. Unfortunately, none of these guys are HBO fighters, so HBO is really handicapped. What's their incentive to pick up a fight like this if it's just a one-off? Because they might not see the guy in his next fight. They might crown the winner and then not see him in his next fight. So I can see HBO's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. But I can definitely see ESPN or Showtime picking it up, and I guarantee you ESPN is probably looking a lot more closely at it, knowing that one of their own top-ranked fighters that fought last night might end up fighting one of these guys soon enough.
I think you're the only one of the four of us who saw Ramirez and Hart fight yesterday. What did you think of Gilberto Ramirez, who's 37-0 and 25 KOs?
He's massive. It's rare to see a super middleweight that big. I mean, he's above 6'3", and he's probably walking around. I mean, in the ring last night, he was probably 180 pounds. I do want to see him step up in competition, though. I mean, he's 26 now, so he is in his prime. I understand you wanted to take him slow, but I think it's about time we see him against better opposition. Jesse Hart's the best opposition he's had, and Jesse Hart's not a bad fighter, but I don't think we'd call him one of the top 2 or 3 fighters. So I definitely want to see Ramirez fight guys like Groves or Eubank or one of the guys in that tournament. And Top Rank has always kind of stayed away from those tournaments. If you remember, even the last Super 6, there was no Top Rank fighters there either, which is unfortunate because, to be honest, I think their fighters could always do pretty well in those kind of tournaments, but it's never been Bob Arum, for whatever our opinion is of him, he's a smart businessman, and he understands how to make himself some money and his fighters some money, while also putting the lowest risk there. I mean, if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, Ramirez was headlining an ESPN card last night, and where a lot of these super middleweight fighters in that tournament don't get any TV time. So if you're someone like Ramirez, what makes more sense for you? So I think they're on track to be building him into almost the next Canelo, in the sense that Canelo was the up and coming star, and now he's kind of in his prime, and I think Ramirez is kind of approaching that point, and I think that's what they intend to make of him. But he obviously has shown some vulnerabilities, but I mean, we didn't really learn anything last night. We need to see him against much better opposition to have an idea of where he is in that super middleweight division.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor. We are talking to our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, John J. Raspanti. Travis, last week we were talking about Lucas Matthysse as a respectable tune-up opponent for somebody like Keith Thurman or Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, or Terrence Crawford before they get around to fighting each other. Now it looks like Manny-Pacquiao is going to try and scoop him up first. What do you think of a Pacquiao-Matthysse matchup? Sometimes two guys on the backside of their careers are classic opponents.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan of Manny Pacquiao and being a compassionate human being, we talked about this last week too, that I didn't want to see Manny Pacquiao fight a Terrence Crawford. Like, I actually like the Lucas Matthysse Manny Pacquiao fight, and I don't like it as an expert and being one of the top fights out there, being a fight that is actually going to matter for the division, because honestly, that fight really doesn't matter for that division at all. Nobody's really going to be talking about that as the next top 2 or 3 guys in the world, but it will be a good competitive fight, and it's a fight that I think both guys are kind of slipping at the same time, meaning that Lucas Matthysse definitely looked like he wasn't the Lucas Matthysse of old. And we also know that Manny Pacquiao is not the Manny Pacquiao that we knew. He's obviously older and more faded. So to see both of those guys go against each other, I'm okay with it. I really am. And I think it'll be a good fight for the fans. If people are watching, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be a good fight. Is it going to be a fight that honestly matters in regards to the champion of the world? No, not really. It's just not. It's going to be a Manny Pacquiao, Lucas Matthysse, good fight. And I'm okay with it. I really am. And I just say that because I don't want to see Manny Pacquiao fight and get hurt by Terrence Crawford. So I love this fight. I love this fight for that reason, and mainly that reason only. So my opinion's a little skewed based on that, but I'm okay with the fight. I really am.
I like the matchup, too. Hey, John, the ring title is going to be on the line for Srisaket Sorungvasai and Juan Francisco Estrada on February 24th at the Forum in L.A. That's the Superfly 2 show. Sorungvasai beat Chocolatito twice, and Estrada beat Carlos Cuadras in September, and he's a warrior. This looks to me like a fight that's going to produce some fireworks.
Oh, it's going to be a great fight. Rungvasai, I really like the guy because, I've been raving about him since I picked him as the Max Boxing Fighter of the Year, just because his story is so incredible, where he came from, what he achieved, what he did with Chocolatito. He's a little rocky in a lot of ways with his story, and everybody loves the underdog, but he's not the underdog anymore. And Estrada, and that guy can fight. So yeah, this should really be one of those fights that I'm thinking that'll take a few rounds to get going, but then when it gets going, man, those little guys will be firing those blows at each other, and there'll be a lot of oohs and ahs going on. So, Rungvasai still has something to prove to some people, and Estrada wants the belt. So it's a can't-miss fight. I believe it's going to be outside in Carson, and that place always brings out the warrior in fighters, it seems like. Every time I've been there, it's been an incredible fight. And that's another one. In 2 weeks we got Groves and Eubank Jr., like I said, and I'm looking forward to. And then the following Saturday is Rungvasai and Estrada. So just some great fights for boxing fans right now.
Okay, and time now for one more edition of
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Riz, guys, here we go again with Floyd Mayweather Jr., who's been teasing people for the past week with hints that he's coming back for an MMA fight. I think we all laughed out loud when we saw that initial tease from Floyd in the news, but a couple of days ago, he apparently met with Steven Espinoza of Showtime about an MMA fight. And Conor McGregor, of course, thinks it's a great idea. I bet he does. And
of course,
he'd love to get Floyd in the cage. But I got to say, I don't understand what he's doing, man, or what good could come from this. Does Floyd need money? Is he starved for attention? Does he have a hidden desire to get his arm torn out of his socket, or is this just a PR stunt? Riz, break this down for us. What's he thinking? Are we really going to see him in the cage?
I highly, highly, highly doubt it. If he wasn't willing to come back for, if he says he's retired from boxing, do you see him kind of venturing into a whole new sport to embarrass himself? I
can't imagine it.
And to be honest, I just think he likes the attention, and it's with the ever-growing presence of social media, it is easier to get attention more than ever. You don't need a microphone or a camera in your face to get your word out there. And I think, I think to be honest, it sours me as a journalist to see the amount of coverage a video of him entering an octagon gets. It's not a story. And what bothers me is if you look at most of the recaps and articles that I've kind of talked about this, none of them have a quote from Floyd. None of them have, a quote from anyone in his camp. It's literally showing the video, saying that he fought McGregor this past August, and McGregor's been chasing for a rematch. So does this mean we're going to get a rematch in the octagon? I mean, it's very, I understand breaking news. I understand being first, but I don't understand assuming a video and turning it into a story. I think Floyd obviously knows what he's doing. Floyd knows how to stir the pot. Floyd knows how to get people's attention. And there's absolutely no word that, he's actually meeting Espinoza about MMA fight. It could be that he's maybe wants to enter some sort of promotion into MMA. We all know he has his boxing clients. Maybe he's looking into getting some MMA clients as well. If you look at the pay that MMA fighters get, it's not anywhere near Floyd or even McGregor money. And who more likely to increase income for MMA fighters than someone like Floyd, especially when Showtime is not a partner with the UFC. So that could do wonders. It bothers me to see how many people are able to jump on a story without any sort of facts outside of him literally walking into an octagon at a random gym. It doesn't do anything. It's not a story. And again, Floyd knows what he's doing. He knows how to get attention. But Floyd, I mean, can anyone see him, considering how he looked against McGregor, he didn't look great, let's face it. Does anyone see him venturing into a different combat sport against, a sport that he's never taken part of? It wouldn't make any sense. And he's not going to get $300 million again for it. So why would he do that, especially at his age? It bothers me that people are able to jump on something so soon because it's not a story. Once we get some facts, if we actually get a quote or something, then maybe we can put some facts to it. But at this point, to be honest, to me, it's not a story.
Riz,
okay.
why you're right, you're right. You're also wrong because the only reason it is a story right now is because Conor McGregor is doing the exact same thing, or did the exact same thing that we're talking about. All of us were like, no chance Conor McGregor ever fights Floyd Mayweather in a boxing ring. And then what happened? It was the craziest thing ever, but it did happen. So I think that's why it's getting the attention from the journalists, is because look at it now. People are now saying, right after the Conor McGregor fight, people are like, oh, Floyd needs to step into the octagon now. All the MMA fans are saying that. I agree. I think it's the biggest farce ever. I thought the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather in a boxing was the biggest farce ever. But Floyd Mayweather is an egomaniac, and he can be bought, meaning he can be bought. If they offer him $200 million to get into the octagon, I promise you that guy would probably come out of his grave. I mean, most of us actually probably would. But if I was Floyd currently, I wouldn't. He's made so much money. He is. I'm gonna start calling him. He calls himself TBE, the best ever. He's the best entertainer of all time. I think that's what he's officially is the best entertainer of all time. He was a phenomenal boxer. I'm not going to say he was the greatest of all time boxer, but I will say he was the best entertainer of all time. This guy garners so much attention even when he's not in the ring, and it's ridiculous. But we all buy into it. We all look into it. I follow his social media. I mean, I'm all over it as well, and I'm just as guilty as the next. And it's the biggest farce ever, and I hope Floyd doesn't step into the octagon. It's stupid. He's a boxer. He's a retired boxer. Just live the good life. Have your family. Raise your kids. Do what you got to do. At some point, The money has to be enough, and that's the problem. I don't think the money is ever going to be enough for Floyd, and that's why he keeps wanting to make more and more and more. I don't think he's broke, to be honest, obviously. I don't think he's broke. I just think he wants more, and he wants more, and it's the greed of money. It does that to people, and when you get that much money, I mean, Floyd is making $200, $300 million to beat up on Conor McGregor. That's just unfathomable money, and he's approaching that again with another fight, and it's just, I don't even know anymore. I'm just so confused I'm a boxing analyst, expert analyst. I don't even know how to analyze Floyd Mayweather anymore because he's ventured outside the boxing realm, that's for sure.
But I don't think he's doing it. I think McGregor needed that fight and wanted that fight, so McGregor chased it because McGregor had a lot more to gain than Floyd did. Floyd said no, and then he saw where this is actually the estimate to fight a guy who's never been in a boxing ring. Then but what is the advantage for Floyd? You got to remember, Floyd, above all things, has always had a lot of pride on that, having 0 losses. So even a different sport right now, I can't see him risking that because he enjoyed that era of invincibility. So why would he take that jump? He wouldn't. I don't think he would. I think you're right. He does have a huge ego, obviously, and he understands money, but he also understands that none of that kind of means anything if he's going to have that loss. And I think he understood that he could beat McGregor almost in his sleep, considering how the lack of experience McGregor had. But it wouldn't make sense for him to jump to MMA, and I don't think he's even considering it. I think he just understood that he could put out this video and he'd get the attention that he wanted, and that's exactly what happened.
Okay, and one more weird story. John, I'll throw this one to you. Tyson Fury was offering this week to fight he was offering to fight Anthony Joshua a couple weeks ago in his very first comeback fight. And this week he's calling out Antonio Tarver, who's 49 years old and hasn't fought in 2.5 years, and Shannon Briggs, who's 47 years old, and he's been idle for 20 months. For the record, I looked this up. Tyson Fury's uncle and former trainer, Peter Fury, is 50. He's a year older than Tarver. Do you cut Tyson Fury any slack for calling out semi-retired geriatrics, or would you expect more of him in his comeback fight? Maybe a Brazil or a Pulev or a Stavern or Dillian White or Manuel Char at least,
I thought he was going to call you and me out there when I was reading those names, Dennis. So that was just, that's how bad it was. He's another one that he loves the attention, and he's just throwing names out to just to get the attention and get people talking, because that's what he's really good at, and he knows that. If he fights one of those guys, it just shows at this point that his first so-called comeback fight is a joke. And he the guy can fight. There's no doubt about it. He's got an awkward style that will drive just about anybody crazy when he's in shape. If he fights Joshua or if he fights Wilder someday. But this is just his MO. This is Tyson Fury. This is what he does. He's another guy that he's a self-promoter, entertainer type, and he's gonna throw these things out because he knows he's gonna get a reaction whatever he does. So I think he needs a tune-up, but not against one of these guys. But it wouldn't surprise me if he fought somebody like, say, a Shannon Briggs or somebody, just because he's that way. He's outrageous, and I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't be stunned. That's him. He does what he wants to do, just like Riz and Travis were talking about Mayweather. He does what he wants to do. He gets the attention he wants, and then he just looks at you and goes, I was just kidding around. I didn't mean it. I was playing with you guys. And we all just buy into it, in this crazy world we're living in right now. So I think he should just worry about getting his weight down, because he's so huge still, even though he's lost quite a bit of weight, and then have a good tune-up fight at some point later in the year. And then, if he handles everything right and Wilder and Joshua handle what they're supposed to, he's looking at fights with either one of them, or maybe if Wilder and Joshua fight first, a winner. So he's got the winner. He's got a lot of money on the horizon if he plays it right. So it's just Tyson Fury being Tyson Fury. I just read that and chuckled.
These guys are our expert analysts: Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, John J. Raspanti. Great insight, guys, as always. Thanks, and have a fantastic week.
Appreciate you guys.
All righty. Jesse James Leija will join us in just a few minutes to talk about his life and a truly amazing career. This guy fought about 6 Hall of Famers by my count and a whole bunch of other tough guys, and he's got some great stories to tell about all those fights. But first we're going to find out from Paul McLaughlin what's been happening in the UK boxing scene, and that's coming up in 1 minute. Stick with us. We will be right back.
This is Bubbles, your ring card girl, and I just love listening to Travis, Riz, and John on the Ringside Boxing Show. And Dennis, not so much.
Hi, this is Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, inviting you to check out a new book I've co-written with John J. Raspanti. Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Micky Ward boxing trilogy, is a behind-the-scenes look at the collision course of 2 authentic ring warriors of our generation, and the greatest 3-fight pyrotechnic explosion since Frazier and Ali. Intimate Warfare is currently on the national bestseller list and one of Amazon's hot new releases for 2017. Order it now online at Amazon.com.
Hi there, it's Paul McLaughlin with your weekly roundup of everything that's going on in the UK boxing scene at this moment in time. Well, first off, we start with Amir Khan, whose pre-fight press conference with Phil LaGreco was temporarily halted after a scuffle broke out between the fighters. Both fighters were present at the Hilton Hotel in Liverpool ahead of Khan's highly anticipated return to boxing at the Echo Arena on the 21st of April. The pair traded insults in the early stages, but it reached a climax when the Canadian made comments about Khan's wife and family, with the former world champion throwing a glass of water over the Italian sensation. Each of the fighters' entourages had to be separated by the security teams as tempers frayed, with undercard fighters Sean Dodd and Tommy Coyle dressed as Batman and Superman, attempting to separate both parties. No, I didn't dream it. Here's what Amir Khan said afterwards.
I think he was getting a bit too personal about personal life. I mean, look, fine, talk about boxing, talk about me getting knocked out, me getting beat, but when he started going to personal life, I think that's just a bit disrespectful, and I didn't do it because I was angry at what I did. I did it just to show him that who's boss. End of the day, you know what, you're crossing the line a little bit. You need to kind of watch what you're saying.
And Eddie Hearn also had something to say about the situation.
Phil LaGreco is going to places that you should never ever go to. Obviously Amir reacted, threw water at him, both guys are up, I'm in the middle. If there wasn't enough importance around this April 21st fight, now it's just stepped up to a new level, and it's going to be an interesting night at the Echo Arena. I'm looking forward to a big show.
We also had an update on the David Price-Alexander Povetkin fight.
Nearly there. David Price has agreed. Povetkin's agreed. The contract's with Povetkin. We hope by the end of this week we'll be announcing Povetkin Price at the Millennium Stadium for the WBA Intercontinental and the number 1 position with the WBA. Massive opportunity for David Price. Don't blink in that one.
Elsewhere, Billy Joe Saunders will defend his WBO middleweight strap against British rival Martin Murray on April the 14th. It has been confirmed. The British star takes on Murray in a London showdown, which will also see the unbeaten Terry Flanagan fight for the WBO super lightweight title. Saunders comes into the fight with his reputation red hot after a wonderful performance in Canada against David Lemieux last December. The stunning victory in enemy territory has put Saunders in contention to face the winner of Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo Alvarez, but the 28-year-old will kick off 2018 with a British grudge match. Murray comes into the contest on the back of 3 wins, and at 35, it may be his final chance to capture a world title.
Yeah, it's going to be a top night on April 14th, and I expect him his best, and I'll be at my best. I rate Billy Joe. It's the first time I've fought in England for a world title. It's my 5th one, but it's the first time, so obviously made up to finally get that chance. I just feel that I'm going to get a fair crack at the whip. I've kind of always been you know, to be honest, I thought the thing with Golovkin, I thought in Monte Carlo I was going to get a fair crack at the whip, but obviously that was the first and only time I've been stopped. But the others, obviously Argentina, I knew I was up against it with judges. Obviously Germany, especially going over there twice. So I've not got that. I've got the confidence now as getting a fair crack at the whip fighting over there.
Right, that's your lot from me, guys. I will speak to you next week. Gloves up and protect yourselves at all times. Back to the studio.
Hey, thank you, Paul McLaughlin. Great stuff, as always, man. We really appreciate what you do for us. We're going to take one more very quick break and return with the great Jesse James Leija. Do not go away.
Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the Sweet Science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Familton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken 2 boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com.
All right, fans, here we go with the WBC Super Featherweight Championship of the World 12 rounds of boxing. Introducing to you first the challenger on my right, fighting out of the red corner. He is wearing black trunks with gold lettering, fighting out of and representing the beautiful city of San Antonio, Texas. He weighed in at 129 pounds with an undefeated record of 26 wins, no losses, 1 draw, with 12 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the NABF featherweight champion, ranked the #3 WBC contender. Please welcome the pride of San Antonio, the undefeated Jesse James Leija. And his opponent across the ring, on my left, fighting out of the blue corner, the defending world champion, wearing gold trunks with red trim. He is hailing from Accra, Ghana. His weight, 128.5 pounds. His record, 37 wins, only 2 losses, 1 draw, with 26 wins coming by way of knockout. Welcome, the former WBC featherweight and current WBC super featherweight champion of the world in his 10th defense of his title, introducing the professor of boxing known as the mighty warrior Azumah Nelson.
Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, where today's featured guest won the WBC Junior Lightweight Championship in 1994, had a 56 pro fight career that spanned 16 years, including 4 memorable clashes with Hall of Famer Azumah Nelson, as well as bouts with Oscar De La Hoya, Kostya Tszyu, Gabriel Ruelas, Arturo Gatti, Micky Ward, Shane Mosley, Ivan Robinson, Francisco Panchito, Bojado, among others. Wow. Jesse James Leija now has his own boxing promotions company with Mike Battah in his hometown of San Antonio, Texas. James, great to talk to you again. How's life, man?
Oh, everything's great. Hey, what a list of names there, huh?
I get tired just reading that. Holy crap. You fought them all. So, James, you had a big promotion scheduled February 10th, topped by IBF super lightweight title bout between Mikey Garcia and undefeated Sergey Lipinets, 2 undefeated fighters. Sergey hurt his hand in training, and that event at Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio has been pushed back to March 10th.
March 10th, yes, sir.
Yeah. You know, I was looking at BoxRec today, and according to them, you've got 10 undefeated fighters on that card. including Mikey and Lipinets and Rancis Barthelemy, who's going to fight Gabriel Ruelas in the co-feature. That's another world title fight for the super lightweight title, WBA version. Plus Mario Barrios and Brandon Figueroa, a couple guys that we've all heard of.
Yeah.
People are going to get to see this on USA Showtime. That's going to be quite a night for boxing fans. I guess congratulations to the matchmaker. Those guys don't get enough credit, do they?
No, they don't. And that's the key of every promotion, of every fight. It's matchmaking that's done right. And not every fight card. It's tough to do that because obviously, every fight you have all these undefeated guys. They're going to fight some tough fighters, but in most cases, the undefeated guy will probably win. But that's why these guys with the opponents or the guys that are challenging them are going to give their best to do to go in there and fight. Just like I did with Azumah Nelson, what I did with Francisco Bojado and all these guys. You go in there and you give your best to make your mark in boxing.
We love to tell our fans something that they might not know about our guests on this show. So here it is about you. Your dad, Jesse Leija, was quite a legend himself in San Antonio as a boxer. He was the first fighter in history, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, history of that city to reach the finals of the National Golden Gloves. Is that true?
That's true. In 1958, I believe, or 59, he was the first San Antonian to ever make it to the finals of the National Golden Gloves. He didn't win it, but he made it to the finals of the National. And he did it at 112 pounds, I believe, as a flyweight back in the day. And then he turned pro, and back then in the days, they didn't, they fought for money, and, he was just, either he was going to knock you out or you were going to knock him out. I think at the end of his career, he had maybe a record of 25-10 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but, he fought tough, and, and he showed me so much in my career by always telling me that one of his famous lines that I remember him telling me forever, and I tell my fighters this as well, is that there's a fine line between being tough and stupid. Tough guys get hit a lot. Tough guys get hit, but people love to see the tough guy. But what's going to happen when the tough guy retires? He won't be able to speak much. He won't be able to function as well, and so it's a fine line between being tough and stupid. And I always wanted to be the smart fighter. My dad said, be the smart fighter, because there's a lot of dumb fighters out there, and there is, and we need to teach them as trainers to box and to be the Mayweathers out there and the guys that punch and don't get hit. And the true art of boxing is to hit and not get hit. That's the art, not to go in there and have a slugfest. That's not the art.
I'm going to guess that you probably came along too late to see him fight. Am I right?
Well, you're talking about my dad? Yes, my dad. I saw him one time. I think I was about 6 years old, maybe 5 years old, and I remember seeing him fight. I remember seeing two guys fighting. Then the next thing I knew, my dad was sitting right next to me. He had a cut over his eye, and I'm not even sure if he won or not. But I remember that vaguely when I was 5 or 6 years old.
Have you seen film of him?
Oh yeah, I've seen something, not a fight film, but I've seen training film, and back then they didn't have all this stuff they have now. So a couple of films of him shadow boxing and stuff, and of course I have fight posters all over my gym of my dad, and so pictures, a bunch of pictures, but I never got to see him really fight the way I wish I could have. But he always told me he was a brawler, he was a slugger, he wasn't the pretty fighter that his brother, who is my uncle, was a really clean fighter, who moved around and was a pure boxer. And my dad didn't have that. My dad had power, and so he was going to go in there and slug with you. And, he paid the price for it in his life as well, because, he suffered. Well, and I don't think, he has he had pugilistic syndrome as well, from taking all those fights. And then my dad had, has Parkinson's. He's had it since he was 52. He's 78 years old now, but that doesn't say. I mean, he doesn't. No one knows. Boxing does not cause Parkinson's, but it adds to it, I'm sure.
Was there backyard boxing at the Leija house when you were a little kid?
No, but my brother and I, we did. We called it sock boxing. We put socks in our hands and we slap each other, slap boxing. We did this all the time, and he my older brother would always get the best of me, but I would never give up. And here's another story. My dad would never let us fight. He never, box as far as boxing. He would teach us a little bit at home, but I never went to the gym till I was 15 years old. And I did it for a month. I did it for a month and a half or so, then didn't go back. And then I went back when I was 19 years old, and that's when I started boxing at the age of 19.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of explains why you only had about 28 amateur fights then, right? You started.
Exactly. I only had, I started fighting at 19, almost 20, and then I turned pro at 22. I only had like 40 amateur fights, and I went to the Olympic trials in 1988. I lost to Kelsey Banks, the eventual Olympian. And I turned pro after that. So I only had 2.5-year amateur career, and I turned pro.
Why did the timing feel right for you to turn pro at that point?
Well, it wasn't the timing was right. That timing was running out on me to turn pro. If I was going to do that. See, so here's the story. I was not going to. I never thought about boxing. I went to the gym, the boxing gym, to get in shape. I was going to join the police academy or the fire academy. I was going to do something with my life. And so I said, I need to get in shape first before I do any of these police academies or fire academy. So I said, I got to get in shape. So I went to the gym and started boxing and getting in shape. And I entered one tournament and won another. I lost my first 2 amateur fights, and I said, well, this ain't going well. And I stuck to it and kept getting better. And, 2 years later, I was in the 88 Olympic trials.
You went 26-0-1 before that first fight with Azumah Nelson, including a win over Steve McCrory, who was a gold medal winner in '84. What was it like to win that fight, considering he was 30-3 at the time and had been, an amateur superstar, a gold medal winner?
Steve McCrory. He was I fought him in Houston, and that was probably the first big name fighter I fought. I'm assuming that. Yeah. I think he was the first one. And he was tough, but I was always determined to get. There was no way I was going to lose a fight. I'm not. I say that in my head because I just would not let anything stop me. Obviously, a good body punch would have stopped me or something like that. But I just had the determination to do something, and I wanted to feed my family and it was my back was against the wall. You got to fight. You have to fight. You chose this career, and now you have to put up or shut up.
For a kid who came up in San Antonio, it must have been an amazing experience in 1993 when you got to fight Azumah for his WBC super featherweight title in front of 63,000 people at the Alamodome, your hometown, San Antonio. Tell me that story. When you look back on that whole experience, does it kind of seem like a dream?
Or even to this day, I can't explain the way I would love to is what the feeling was to step out into that arena. We were behind the curtains, and they start playing my song, and you could hear 63,000 people just cheering so loud. It was crazy. And when they opened the curtain to show me with the spotlight on me, the people got so loud. The wave and the cheer volume of the crowd pushed me back, like literally pushed me back. And I looked at everyone like, "Did y'all feel that?" And they was looking at me. It was amazing, and it was it was the highlight of my career, of that moment of feeling that day of all those fans cheering for you, and you walking out into the ring. It was amazing, and I love seeing it every once in a while on YouTube or on my fight videos. I just want to see the entrance. That's all I want to see. I know how the fight went, but I want to see the entrance.
I bet you still tingle when you watch yourself walk to the ring on video, don't you?
Oh, it's amazing. And here's the thing. I look at these videos and my fight videos from a different perspective, because I see that as not knowing that was ever me. Because when you're a fighter, your mind and your thinking goes into it. It's like there was 2 Jesse James Leijas. One's the outside, who's a calm guy, nice guy, family guy, and the whole bit, and then the one that's in the ring. It's 2 different people. I tell you, when I watch myself fight, I'm like, why would I ever do that? Why would anyone let me do that? Why would it's two different people. The fight game it's a brutal game. And I'm not a brutal guy, but when it's just like looking from the outside as a different person. I'm looking at a different person. Even when I see guys fight now, like professional fight, like say I watch Mayweather fight or someone, I'm like, man, these guys are incredible, and I can't believe it. And when I watch myself fight, I'm like, wow, that guy was pretty good. Not thinking it was me.
Yeah, and it's hard to figure out where that mean streak comes from in some guys because, vast majority of fighters that I've met are great guys outside the ring. It's like they get all their aggressions out in the gym. And, I've covered the NFL, I've covered Major League Baseball, I've covered the NBA. Boxers are the easiest guys to talk to in sports. They're the nicest.
Oh yeah, I believe that too. I see it, and I've seen it quite a bit. Cause, I know a lot of athletes in different sports, and sometimes you see them and the way they react to people and how they treat people, and I'm like, oh man, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to be nice and cordial. They're paying you. They're paying you to come and see you. They're paying to come and see, and you got to treat them with, as friends and not as, when people ask people for. So here's a story. When I've seen some basketball players and people come and asking for autographs and they say no, or I don't have time, and they walk away because they're being bothered. And then, so here's a story. I was able to meet and hang out with Ali for an hour, Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. And he made me feel like if I was the world champion, like if I was the greatest. That's how he made me feel when I was talking with him. And he took pictures with me, and we did all this kind of stuff. And just an amazing man. I spent an hour with he and Lonnie inside the hotel suite while they were here in San Antonio. And then I look at these other athletes, basketball players that are on the NBA, whatever, and they're not, I said, the greatest man in the world as far as an athlete, one of the greatest athletes in the world. And he treated everybody with respect. He talked to kids and talked to people, took pictures with everybody. And you're just an NBA player, or and you're not even that good, and you're not going to sign autographs with people or take pictures with people. I said, oh my God. I mean, it's just the worst thing. And after I met Ali, I said, I do so much stuff in San Antonio as charity, and I've had a golf tournament for 26 years, and I give my time into the city. But when I met Ali, I said, I need to do more. I'm not doing enough compared to this man. And he's my hero, and that's the one I want to look up to, and I want to try to emulate as far as helping people in my city.
I read somewhere that Azumah told you after that first fight, which was a split draw, that he thought you won the fight. Is that true?
No. He said I did very well. He goes, you did very well, son. You did very well. But he didn't tell me. No, he didn't say that to me. If he did, I don't remember it. But I just know he said. But the second time he said he was gonna knock me out because he just was gonna knock me out. And if he didn't knock me out, he was gonna retire. And I beat him, but he didn't retire. We fought 2 more times afterwards.
What was different that second fight? Why'd you beat him?
I don't know. I think I did the same thing I did in the first fight, except the first fight I did the rookie mistake that young fighters make, is that when I thought I was ahead on the fight, I started taking it easy and started being too cautious and staying away from him and not letting him get that big punch in. So I was letting him back me up, and I was boxing more. The second fight, I just kept doing the same thing for 12 rounds. I did not stop going forward, and I beat him just about every single round.
All right, let me ask you this. What was it like waking up the next morning at the MGM Grand and realizing that you were the world champion?
That was well, first of all, you're assuming I went to bed. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. I was awake the whole time with a belt around my waist and just walking around. And by the time everybody gets back to the hotel room, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're flying out like 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't sleep. And the funny thing is, here's the funny thing is, we're flying to San Antonio. Oh, here's a good story I'll tell you. So we're flying to San Antonio. Everybody's taking pictures of me. I have the belt with me. All the people on the plane are taking pictures. The pilot comes out. He takes pictures of me. And I'm kind of looking at him. I said, who's flying the plane? I said, he goes, oh, we got another guy in there. So it's amazing. So think about it. I'm this world champion now.
I beat the great Azumah Nelson. I'm on the plane. Everybody on the plane taking pictures of me. That's all we did the whole time, the whole flight. We land. I have every media and television station here in San Antonio at the airport waiting for me. I'm at the airport about an hour and a half doing interviews and signing autographs, and it's amazing, right? And I have the belt around me the whole time. It's just my wife's with me, and we're all in cloud nine. It's amazing. I get home, and we walk into the house, and my wife, she tells me, something stinks in the house. And she said, something stinks in the house. We've been out for, a week and a half. And she said, you got to take the trash out. And I looked at her, I said, I'm the world champion. You can't tell the champion to take the trash out. She goes, I'm the champion inside the house. Take the trash out. So I put my belt down, grabbed the trash, and took it outside.
Man, is that ever the truth? Yep.
I'm telling you. And to this day, it's still the same way.
Yeah. All it takes is a wife to humble you. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and that's one thing that she's always kept me humble throughout my career. I never thought. She always reminded me, you're still the same kid you were in the South Side, and don't ever change. You got to be the same way. It's just and I've always said, this is just a job. It's my job to be it just puts me on the front of a camera, but I'm still a fighter. I'm still the same guy. Nothing changes me.
Oh, you only got to hold that belt for 4 months, and then you lost it to Gabriel Ruelas. How difficult was that to take?
Well, it was tough because, first of all, I was with Don King, and for some reason there was something that happened where I had to fight Gabe, the number one contender, 4 months later, after I just beat the great Azumah Nelson. So what happened was, first of all, I climbed the mountaintop. It took me long to get there, right? I finally climbed the mountaintop. I conquered the world champion, Azumah Nelson. What do you do after that? What would you do?
Man, I enjoy it.
Take it easy. Enjoy it. Take it easy. Go on vacation.
That doesn't work for a fighter. Yep.
Yeah. But there's some fighters if they don't have to fight 4 months later. But after I did that, I went on vacation. I've been working so hard to get to that point. I win the title. I go on vacation. I go to Puerto Rico. I'm with my wife traveling, eating whatever I want because I've been on diet for forever and eating whatever I want. Then the next thing I know, I have 6 weeks to get ready for Gabriel as number one contender in the world. I got dropped 20 pounds. I was like, oh, my God. And it was just – I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Matthysse-Pacquiao. Remember Matthysse-Pacquiao? He was the weight guru. Yeah. Okay. I went to him about 6 weeks before the fight because I was having trouble getting down to 130. Even for Azumah Nelson, I was having trouble getting down to 130, but I stayed active. So I kept my weight down. But taking, 3 months off and putting my weight on, and we went to Matthysse-Pacquiao, and he said, I can get you down to 130 because you won't have any energy left, but I can get you down to 130. I was on 1,200 calories a day diet for 6 weeks.
Oh.
1,200 calories, and then I was working out 3 times a day just to get my weight down. And when I made that weight with Gabe, I had nothing. I was done. What I should have done is just moved up to 135, and vacate my belt. But you don't make money that way. You only make money by defending your belt. So I had to defend my belt against Gabriel Ruelas, and it just killed me to do that. So after that, I went up to 135. I left my belt. I lost to Gabe. I said, I got to fight at 135. I can't do this anymore. So what happens? I fight at 135. Who wins the belt at 130 again? Azumah Nelson. That was our third fight. So I killed myself again to come down to 130. And it showed Azumah stopped me in the 5th or 6th round. I think 6th round. The same thing happened. I did not have enough energy to take the punches. I was just dead. I was just a zombie in the ring. And so after that, sure enough, I said I had to go back to 135, and I went down to 135, and I fought Azumah Nelson again for the IBA belt, and I beat him handily on our last fight. I think I beat him 10 rounds out of 12.
In '95, you bounced back from that Ruelas loss with wins over Jeff Mayweather and Rodney Garnett, and then you fought Oscar, the golden boy, the gold medalist, undefeated as a pro in Madison Square Garden. And the fight didn't go well with you, but that experience must be memorable.
I mean, I had such a great time there. It was just, you know, I'm from the South Side here in San Antonio, and I was just, when I stepped into the ring to fight Oscar, I looked around and see all these movie stars and you know, athletes, and I'm just looking around. I said, wow, if people could just know that the kid from the South Side, we didn't start boxing until the age of 19, and it was a proud moment for me. I knew I was going to fight the great Oscar, but it was a proud moment for me because I did something in my life. I'm fighting Madison Square Garden in New York, and I did something, and it was a proud moment. I knew the fight was going to be with Oscar was going to be tough. And what had happened is just Oscar was just too tall, too fast, and just strong. He's a strong guy. You got to think about it. He knocked guys out at 130. He knocked guys out at 135, 140, 147, 150, 154. He was knocking guys out. Can you imagine how hard he hit at 135?
Oh,
he hit hard.
Yep.
Yeah, and I gave, you know, I had a great training camp. I thought I was going to beat Oscar. I had a great training camp, sparring with 147-pounders and doing well. Then I get in the ring with Oscar, and it's a whole different story. But, you know, it was still a proud moment for me regardless.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor. We're talking to the great Jesse James Leija. John Raspanti and I wrote a book last year about the Ward Gatti trilogy called Intimate Warfare, and it's on Amazon's bestseller list. You fought both of those guys. And the thing that struck John and I about writing that book is those two guys literally felt like brothers when they were done beating the hell out of each other for 30 rounds. After 42 rounds with Azumah Nelson, do you have the same feeling about each other when you bump into each other?
It's the same thing. When we see each other, we hang out, we talk, we hug each other. He talks to my family, my kids, my boy. I mean, it's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood. We don't, you know, he lives in Africa, but whenever we do see each other, it's like we're brothers. And there's so much respect there. He'll hang out and talk with my wife and my father, my parents, and you can't get that. I don't understand how other guys in sports or other guys can hate each other. I said, how can you hate someone that gives you their best inside the ring? And it's a competition. It's not a fight. It's a competition.
Yeah, and you two are the only people on earth who know what. Yeah, you two are the only two on earth who know what you put each other through. It's almost like you laid on your belly at Iwo Jima side by side, you know, for 42 rounds.
Yeah,
you know, there's
exactly.
Nobody else who understands.
And there's nothing but respect. There's nothing but respect. I love him. I actually say I love Azumah Nelson. He's just a great man.
You beat Micky Ward and you lost to Arturo Gatti, and I read that you ranked them as maybe the two strongest men that you ever fought, just for brute strength.
I think. Yeah, they were both really. Micky was really strong with every punch. With Gatti, so here's the thing with Gatti. I was, you know, obviously I was already 38 years old and slow and beat up already by the time I got to Gatti, but or even Micky as well. Because you know, for the last 3 or 4 years of my career, I was fighting with a separated rib that never healed. But one thing that Gatti did show me the ultimate respect is all he did was box me from the outside. He kept a jab in my face, and matter of fact, our game plan was thinking that Gatti was putting nonstop pressure on me.
Yeah.
And that was Ronnie Shields. We came with he goes, we know he's gonna come after you. He's gonna come after you, and they threw us for a loop by staying on the outside and just using their jab. He would not get close to me. He kept sticking his jab out, but that's a sign of respect as well. He respected my boxing ability to stay on the outside and just stick his jab out at me. Great game plan, because they caught us completely by surprise with that game plan. And you know, sure enough, he kept me on the outside, kept the jab in my face, and kept moving until I made a mistake, and he caught me with a good hook, and that was the end of it.
Now, here's something people should know about your career. You fought Sugar Shane Mosley when he was a lightweight, when he was considered one of the best in history in that weight division. Yeah. You also fought Kostya Tszyu at 140 when a lot of people out there thought he was number one pound for pound in the world at 140. But here's the interesting thing. You told the Ring magazine that the best fighter you ever faced was Panchito Bojado, and you beat him by a split decision in 2004. second to last fight of your career. He had a short career, just 21 fights, never won a world title, and then he was gone. Why is he at the top of the list for you that includes Azumah Nelson, De La Hoya, Mosley, Kostya Tszyu, Gabriel Ruelas? Wow. Panchito's number one, huh?
Yeah, well, and here's my explanation, because people say, "Oh, you only say that because you beat him." I said, "No, not at all." Remember when he was coming out, how everyone, not me, everyone was saying he's the next Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah.
He's the best thing. Okay, so everyone said that. I didn't even know the kid when people were saying this about him, that he's the next superstar in boxing. He's the next superstar in boxing. Okay, so I fought all these other guys. What did Oscar have? Oscar had power. Yeah, Oscar wasn't the most beautiful boxer in the world, but he had a lot of power. A great jab, he was a right, a left. So, okay, Oscar had power. Okay, and then Shane Mosley. What did Shane Mosley have? He had incredible speed, great legs, great movement. Didn't hit it very hard to me. Now, he wasn't the hardest puncher. Okay, then I fought Azumah Nelson. Azumah Nelson, his biggest thing was you never knew what he was going to throw, because sometimes you get wild and he hit hard, but you just never knew. He was in a fighter you just couldn't figure out. Hard to really study or gauge what he was going to do in the ring. A little wild at times, but that was his thing. What did Bojado have? He had speed, he had power, he had boxing ability. He was able to use his legs well. He had the whole package. But there was one thing that he was missing. And that was, I think, the ability to sacrifice and work hard, work habit. Maybe that was it. He didn't have that work habit because I think he was given too much too soon and relaxed too much. But everyone said it. I just repeated what everyone said. He's probably the best fighter, and I think he had the whole. The thing was, the story was the whole package. He had the whole package. The best fighter, not the best fighter I fought, because he had the whole package. Now, Oscar had everything else and some of these other guys, but Bojado had the whole package.
What about Kostya Tszyu?
Good. You know what? Here's the thing, and I even told Kostya, Kostya never hurt me. Like, he never hit me with something that hurt. Never. And I think the reason is because I put the pressure on him. I made him back up. If you watch the first 5 rounds, I'm putting pressure on him the whole time and countering and speed. So he never hit me with anything clean. So I can't say that he hurt me or that he had power, because he never hit me with anything clean. So that's why, that was that. If you go back in the tape and watch me fight Kostya, he never hit me with anything that put me down or.
And that fight ended because of he broke your eardrum, right?
Yeah, well, I had a busted eardrum, and that was just from pressure going into my ear. But I've said it before, but remember when I said I fought I had separate ribs for about 3 years during my career, the last 6 years. 4 weeks before that, the guy I was sparring with hit me in the back and separated my rib in front of my sternum, and that's why that fight was, there was more of the busted rib that gave me problems than the busted eardrum. But if we would have pulled out from the fight, I never would have got that fight again. I never would have fought Kostya. So there's a saying, there's always a fighter who fights hurt. It's rare that a fighter goes in there 100%. We either have a bad elbow, bad rib, bad ankle from doing something or whatever. But it's tough for a fighter to go in the ring. You're sparring. I would spar an average of 130 rounds or 140 rounds of sparring to get ready for a fight. You're going to get injuries. And sometimes you just fight hurt. And you go in there and you fight. You
were fighting hurt a lot at the end of your career, the rib and the elbow. When you retired after 16 years, was it tough anyway to walk away? Did you have some serious withdrawal pains when you stopped boxing?
Oh, it was the worst. I think, my wife can tell you more, but I think my wife tells me that I was depressed for about a year. It was another thing where I wanted to hurt myself, but I was depressed for a year. And my wife and I would talk about it sometimes, and she would say, now you're just like anyone else. Now you have to go and work out for you, because I wouldn't want to work out. She goes, why don't you go work out? I said, why? I'm not going to fight. And she goes, no, you do it for yourself now. You do it for your health and do it for just to feel good about it. But it took about a year for me to finally come to grips that I'm never going to fight in the ring again. And that's when I opened up my boxing gym and started helping other people get in shape and getting myself in shape. And then I started a promotional company. But now I'm giving back to the sport that gave me so much.
And Mike Battah was a client of yours, right? He
was a client of mine. Yeah, and he loves boxing. He was a client. He goes, "Why don't we do some promoting?" I said, "No, we want to do that because I know it's a tough business." And he said, "Yeah, I think we can do it together. I think we just put our minds together. We can make something happen." So we did that, and we started doing well early on. We started doing well. It's kind of slowed down for a while, but I think it's going to start picking back up again for us.
I've watched boxing promoters up close, and that is a stressful job. You're lining up boxers for 6, 7, 8 fights on the card. You're making sure they show up on weight. You're replacing guys who get sick or injured, and boxers it's like herding cats sometimes.
Yeah. But you know what? All that. People. Yeah. But all that's the easy part. The hard part is selling tickets. The hard part is putting people's butts in the seats. That's the hardest part of all because
there you go, selling tickets.
If it's on TV, they stay home. We got to get them into the arena, and that's the hardest part is getting people to come to the fights. And you have to have a good fighter to do that. You have to have a good draw, and so we do a lot of fights for PBC. We promote a lot of their fighters, but people really don't care about out of towners. They want to see their homegrown guys. They want to see guys from San Antonio fight. So we have to have a good fighter from San Antonio to pull in the people from San Antonio, and then the people that come in from out of town. If there's a decent name on it, people will come. But most people, they want to see one of their own. And so we have to build a good fighter from San Antonio and build him up and make him a draw, make him an attraction, and put him on these cards that we do with PBC or anyone else that we're doing fights with. It's hard to sell tickets to someone to watch someone from out of town. They like to support their own, unless they have a big name already, of course.
Do you enjoy it, or are there just nights when you just go find the heavy bag and beat the crap out of it?
No, I hit the bag every once in a while. Believe me, I hit the bag a lot. Yeah, I still work out. Yeah, no, boxing is a great stress reliever for businessmen and women, and I have 2 boxing gyms here in San Antonio that we cater mainly to white collar, to everybody, of course, but I have a lot of businessmen, a lot of business women. I train the San Antonio Spurs for the last 11 years. I've been or 12 years. I've been with the Spurs, so it keeps me busy, and I love the sport. And I try to give people a different perception of what they have of boxing. Some people think, oh, it's brutal, it's this, but then when they start learning it, they know it's an art. It's not just brutal; it's an art.
Okay, tell me a little bit about training the Spurs. Do you look at any of those guys, Tim Duncan or somebody, and say, man, you could have been the next Ali? Is that where the next Ali ended up in basketball or football somewhere?
No, I say that a lot. There's some good boxers. Good basketball players that have been great boxers. First of all, you think about it. Just to be a top athlete in the NBA, you have to be good. But somebody like Manu Ginobili was amazing fighter. He is so good at it. Tony Parker's really quick. Tim Duncan's are just like he is in basketball, the fundamentals. He wants to work on technique all the time. So it's fun. It's fun to hold the pads for these guys and teach them something different that they haven't learned, or I get to teach them something. Yesterday, matter of fact, I was training Rudy Gay yesterday, and he's an amazing boxer. He's boxed before. So I was teaching him yesterday. It was fun to teach because he knew a little bit already, and so we had a good time.
Okay, so one of your sons, James Leija Jr., had a 3-0 pro record. I don't know if he's still fighting, but he hadn't fought since 2016. Is he still pursuing that?
No, not actively, because what happened was he graduated from college in, I think, 2013, 2014, and he graduated. He wanted to start boxing. I said, okay. And he started like me at 19 years old. He won his first Golden Gloves championship his first year, and then the second year he fought it, but he didn't win the Golden Gloves. He didn't win the Golden Gloves. He had lost here in town to a guy. Well, he had lost, and then he wanted to return him pro. He had like 4 or 5 fighters fall out in the first year and a half or 2 years. So that's why he was scheduled to fight like 8 times. He only fought 3 times, and so that was a real to get ready for a fight and then have the guy not show up or whatever. That it's just brutal on him. But he was still wanting to do it, and he met his girlfriend in college, his last year in college, and they didn't talk for a while, and then they started talking again 2 years after they graduated, and they reconnected and they got married, and he was still fighting, and then life hits you. Yeah. Boxing doesn't pay bills. Yep. Boxing doesn't pay bills, doesn't pay mortgage, doesn't do anything early on when you first start off, and you got to sacrifice a lot. And he wasn't. He said it's tough for me to make money when boxing, fighting every once in a while. But he has his gym downtown. He has clients all the time, and so he said it's easier for me to do what I'm doing now, and maybe one day he'll come back. But he's married, and his wife's gonna they're expecting their baby in June. So life hits you, and so you gotta take life by the horns and roll with it.
Is that your first grandbaby coming?
It's gonna be my first grandbaby. Yeah, we're gonna have a granddaughter, so we're so excited about it.
Congratulations!
It's all yeah, thank you. There's so many boys in the family, and there's only one. My niece is 30 years old, and so we're gonna have we're having a granddaughter now who we'll be so excited for. And my sons run the gyms. I have 2 gyms. My sons run one of them. They do all their clients and personals, and they're being successful with that. So, and I run my gym. So it's a great fit. People here in San Antonio. I mean, I train CEOs of different companies and attorneys, doctors. We train everybody. So we're really successful and lucky with it.
Hey, last one for you, because I know you probably got a lot to do. How different was it watching your son fight? Did it give you a better understanding of what your dad probably went through in the ring?
Oh, I when the first time my son fought, I went to hug my parents and just for putting them with what I put them through. I hugged them just because now I realize what I was putting them through for 20 years.
Yeah.
17 years as a pro and 2.5 years as an amateur, and I felt bad. I felt sorry for them because that's brutal to put anyone through that, and it's something I don't miss. I don't miss that feeling of when your kids are fighting. It's very tough, and I'm kind of glad my son's not doing it.
Okay, so big show March 10th at Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio. 2 world title fights, including Mikey Garcia. So what's the best way for people to get tickets right now?
Well, we have Leija Bata. We have people can call in at 210-826-4350. Order their tickets. They can go to our Facebook or Instagram. It's Leija Bata Promotions, and they can order the tickets for them or contact us, and we'll contact them.
Okay, 2 world title fights at the top of that card, 10 undefeated fighters, plus Richard Comey, Josecito Lopez, and a lot of other top attractions.
Yes.
Hey, man, always great to talk to you, James. You were a terrific fighter and a guy who fought absolutely everybody, and a person who's made the sport better, not only as an active boxer, but in retirement as a promoter and as an ambassador to the sport. Thanks very much for giving us some time today.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, Jesse James Leija on the Ringside Boxing Show. Thanks, Jesse. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. In recent weeks on the Ringside Boxing Show, our guests have included Keith Thurman, Terrence Crawford, Abel Sanchez, Kathy Duva, Steve Smoger, Terrible Tim Witherspoon, Marlon Starling. Next month, we're actually expecting to connect with Sergey Kovalev. That should be fascinating. If you like this show, do us a solid. Spread the word about us on social media. Help us grow. Also, if you have not yet discovered the #1 website in the world for daily boxing news, What in the world are you waiting for? What are you friggin' waiting for? We update RingsideBoxingShow.com 365 days a year with the biggest headlines and the hottest stories every single day. There's not another site like it anywhere on the Internet. Check it out right now, and you will be blown away. RingsideBoxingShow.com. That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks, as always, to our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti, as well as our outstanding British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, for his weekly report. And another huge thanks to today's featured guest, the great Jesse James Leija. Keep your chin tucked, Ringside Nation, and we will catch up with you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path.